From the Central Intelligence Agency's video on Soviet propaganda from the 1980s.
Of the leadership. The Soviet regime does not hesitate to enforce its rule through the violent suppression of individual liberty, but it prefers to use less onerous methods of control, such as various propaganda techniques. The use of propaganda from cradle to grave by the Kremlin has helped to ensure at least the passive acceptance of its rule by the Soviet people. The Soviet regime disseminates propaganda through a vast network operating under the supervision of the party's Central Committee and Politburo. This propaganda network encompasses over 4,000 newspapers, a large book publishing empire, a nationwide radio and television system, and an incessant stream of public lectures. For example, about 15 million lectures are given each year by the Knowledge Society, a major component of the propaganda network. The regime also works through mass public organizations such as the Communist Youth League and trade unions, the agitation and propaganda component of the armed forces, and the national educational system to indoctrinate various elements of the population. Moreover, party propaganda professionals are dispatched continuously to enforce ideological conformity within the vast network and to provide the appropriate party lines. Socialist indoctrination, Soviet style, is introduced early in a child's education. Each classroom contains its own Lenin Corner, a small area set up to deify the exploits of Lenin as the great leader of the first socialist revolution in the world. In music class, for example, children learn to express their love for Lenin through hymns that are sung on holidays. Soviet elementary education is characterized by a suffocating paternalism. An assurance of personal security is offered by the state in return for strict conformity and the suppression of individual expression.
Now this video is taken from the liberal media, who could be relatively easily compared with the propaganda in Soviet Russia.
Which we all disdain depending on what our description is of them. The concern, I think...
There's a concern.
The concerns resurface.
Is that concerning to you?
Isn't that concerning? Nicole, I share that concern greatly. Mayor, should we be concerned?
Should be a little bit concerning, particularly when it echoes concerns.
It's not journalism, it's propaganda.
To run a propaganda clip.
This isn't journalism, this is propaganda.
Shoving propaganda down local anchors' throats.
Scripted propaganda and accusations.
Propaganda has to stop.
Propaganda.
And this is a narrative an example of a narrative that the media uses this technique very often.
Delivering is criticism of a single FISA application involving Carter Page and its renewals that cherry picks information that doesn't tell the reader the whole.
When you put together a very short memo that very selectively cherry picks information to make one's case.
The memo is said to be the product of a cherry-picked intelligence.
We're not going to be cherry picking this.
To cherry pick this, that offer a few cherry picked and misleading details.
What we have is a cherry picked memo.
Facts that were put in the memo were cherry picked. What was put out in the memo does in fact cherry pick. It was kind of cherry picked.
Right. Cherry picked information that we're looking at.
Just kind of cherry picked certain details.
A few cherry picked facts.
It really just cherry picks. A very selective cherry picked reading of a very selective and cherry picked memo, right?
It's a very cherry picked memo, no?
But